So with day 7 complete and having survived the horde, I got back to work on fixing up my base and improving my life. I had already built the 3 workbenches that I knew how to build from the beginning. The maintenance station, the carpenter's table, and the research bench. Now, using the research bench, I'd now learned how to build the artisan's table. Now, through the artisan's table, the next thing I would need to build is the furnace, and then after that, the blacksmith forge. With those 2 things, I would be able to start working metal. I'd also started to research vehicles.
With you, long as you're not
You had to start with the most basic vehicle, which was the bicycle. So I was researching how to repair a bicycle, then I could move my way up to mini bike. So the first thing I did for the day was to go by the trader to sell some extra junk I'd picked up. That would also help with encumbrance issues. I noticed I was short of several basic things that it's good to have, especially in the beginning. I had no backpack to carry extra items in, no extra storage pockets. I hadn't found a wrench yet, which is very key. I mean, you really need a wrench early in the game to get those mechanical parts, pipes, scrap iron. So I definitely needed to keep an eye out for those items specifically, especially if I was going to make or repair a bicycle and eventually a mini bike and motorcycle. There were a lot of items that I need to wrench from the wrecked vehicles around the world to get the parts that I needed. So I went ahead to the next mission I had, which was a simple house with a separate garage on the side. I did realize I needed arrows, and since I'd left my original carpenter's bench right here near the trader, and actually there's one in the trader too, I decided to go ahead and make some stone arrows before I left for the mission. And of course the zombie decided to join the party. I noticed that in using the sword, several times I've tried to start the fight with a power attack, but it seems like the power attack with the sword is a very short range. I'll continue to try and see if I can get better at doing it. Now, on my way to the mission, I did remember I thought I had seen a tree stump right near the trader. So I went ahead and took that apart and got some honey. At the house, activated the mission. And got started. A fairly small house, very practical. A couple zombies hiding in cabinets in the first room. Now again, with a wrench, I can do things like take apart that ceiling fan or take apart the flat screen TV, the digital TV, but I missed out on those items. Tried to start this fight with a knife, but the door got in my way, and I was immediately in trouble. Pulled out the boat oar to finish off the zombie. I was having trouble with food. Of course, because I was still infected, being infected has a negative effect on you. It starts with affecting your stamina regen. It slows it down. And as the infection gets higher, the stamina regen effect gets stronger. And then eventually it gets to a point, I think around 50% infection or higher, that it actually lowers your ability scores, lowers your intelligence, fortitude, strength. So I'd managed to keep it below that, but pretty much since day one, my stamina had been affected by the infection. Continue to make my way through the house. Finding some helpful items. I think kind of as I was going through this, my focus was going to be on making the tailor's station soon, because with the tailor station, you can make things like pockets and eventually maybe some armor. But I definitely needed some help with my carrying capacity. Got lucky there, woke up that zombie, but one shot at him in the head. I found a lot of clothing here. Basically sorted through it, gathered anything that was an improvement, took some dyes out, kind of reorganized what I was wearing. Now, I did find some steel arrowheads and check just to be sure I can make the steel arrowheads, but I will need the ballistics table to make them. So really the tables I needed were racking up. I needed the tailor station to make armor, pockets, that sort of thing. I needed the furnace and the blacksmith forge to start making things like iron ingots and plates. I needed the ballistics table to make steel arrows and other ammo. Of course, the ballistics table, tier 1, could make some of the most basic ammo like shotgun shells. And then after that, I needed a workbench. Like just the generic workbench had a lot of function, and through the workbench you could make a lot of additional items. The stone arrows were working fine for now until I could get steel or iron arrows made. The loot in this house wasn't awesome, but the other thing I was doing was, by completing these missions for the traders, or for the trader, eventually he would give me a mission to a new trader, and I was hoping it would show me a new biome, which I might perhaps move to for better loot. But getting ahead of myself. First of all, I needed to survive. Don't want to start dreaming too big. Alright, so after completing the looting and killing the zombies in the house, like the last place there were some zombies hiding was in the separate garage. Snuck in there. Could hear the zombies sleep and didn't want to make a lot of noise, but I had to kind of jump to hop over this crossbeam, and luckily it didn't wake them up, and made taking these two out much easier. Many times when you come into this garage, sometimes even just making the jump from the house, it'll wake up the zombies, so I was very fortunate there. Now the blue tarps do have clay in them, and you can use clay to make bricks, but as far as what I wanted to carry around, I felt just carrying the raw bricks would be better than carrying around the clay. I don't know, maybe I can compare the weight at some point. You can always get clay digging, so I really didn't feel the need to carry the clay around at this point. I did also pick up the stacks of cement as stacks this time. I saw that each stack weighs about 1 unit, so I don't know if digging into it and getting the stack of cement powder would weigh less, but picking up the whole thing, I could go ahead and dig, place it and dig it up later, and hopefully it saved me on some weight. I made my way back to the trader to turn in the mission. I was really hoping I was getting close to the last mission of the Tier 1 series.
Beware. I sure doubted it, but you pulled it off.
He gave me an option of a helmet light or ammo. Since I already had the helmet light, I went ahead and got the ammo. Didn't really have a gun that used the 10mm, but maybe I would at some point.
Take a number.
For this mission, I decided to get a mission as far across town towards where my house was as possible, and then also, since it was a car lot, I was hoping maybe it would give me a chance to find a wrench. So I would need a wrench not only for wrenching items and getting some resources I need, but also to build a workbench schematic. Power attacks with the sword just weren't working for me. Every time I tried to attack with a power attack with the sword, it kind of pulled the sword in, and even a zombie there like that one standing right in front of me wouldn't be hit. I decided to take a roundabout way back to my base again. Again, hoping to find some more tree stumps for honey. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Looted things along the way. Didn't find anything too exciting. But as I was walking down this road, it did look like off in the distance to the southeast there was perhaps signs of a town. And I saw at least one structure, maybe a house, and maybe others. I wasn't sure. We would see. Of course, once I get a vehicle, I could explore, but then we could also see if once I completed the Tier 1 series, if it led me to a trader in that town. Of course, it did look like it was also in the forest biome, so that wouldn't help me too much, but check it out. As I make my way back, the crickets started chirping, so I knew it was after 7 p.m., so it was getting late. Another benefit of going around, other than looking for the tree stumps, was that I stayed out of downtown, which could be really dangerous. Downtown, you will run into ferals, cops. So I wanted to avoid that. Unfortunately, by taking the long way, that cost me a lot of time. Now, as I was going, well, first of all, I saw this annoying tree in the middle of the street, which bugged me. But I did notice that there was an airdrop nearby. I think I've pointed out before, I usually don't rush out after airdrops when they fall, but if I happen to be wandering around and run into one, sure, I'll grab it. So I grabbed this one. It had some cornbread and it was long-range mods. Anyway, all I know is that once I picked that up, I was encumbered again, so that was annoying. I didn't really want to get rid of it. I guess we help with my weightlifting. Anyway, now it started to get to be after 9 p.m. I was skirting the edge of town, so I was really getting nervous, wondering if I was going to make it back to my base on time. And probably the only thing worse about being out at night... Oh, I did notice to the left there was the honey farm, which probably should have marked that on my map, but I think I can remember where it is. Need to check that out. But the only thing worse than being out at night is to be out at night and encumbered and near downtown. I mean, I know I wasn't exactly in downtown, but being near it at night, run into things like cops and ferals and that sort of thing. I did decide to drop the package, but I was still way down. I was basically looking around at the houses I was passing by, looking for an option of a place to hide for the night, because it didn't look like I was going to make it home in time, so I was looking for a nice, quick place to duck. And of course, being encumbered slowed me down. I would have noticed that field to the left was where I was right before Horde Night started, gathering up stone. I probably wouldn't have made it back into the base before nighttime fell, but I would have been right outside and would have had the safety of my horde base to fight off the zombies or any zombies that followed me in. As it was, I actually thought I'd already looted this house. I thought I'd already done a mission here. So I was quite surprised to come around the corner and find zombies. And then of course, it turned nighttime. The zombies started to come after me. I had to pull out my gun. That only made them notice me more. It's an endless cycle once you're out at night. You basically have to pull a gun to protect yourself. And the second you fire, they're on you. The other thing I had planned, I did pin the schematic for the furnace. Was since I was taking the roundabout way, I could simply find a boulder to dig up some of the large stone that I needed. I think I pretty much had everything else I needed back at the base, but that large stone was didn't have that. But considering I had to stop and hide for the night anyway, I wasn't going to be able to do that. Now you do loot glass panes around town in POIs. Those are useful for making doors. Some of the doors in Undead Legacy are more complicated than your basic iron doors. Oh, that was a nice move. This zombie jumped over the couch and hit me as she was in the air. Very impressive. The sounds outside kind of slowed down, so I was hoping that I was going to be safe up here, but I still needed to get rid of the zombies that were actually in the house. Guarding this last room. Took care of that. I got a good angle. Made it into the final loot room. First thing I decided to do in case this house got completely swarmed with night zombies was to get rid of some of the heavier things I was carrying. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but I was right around the corner from my base, so either I could take the slow, heavy crawl to the base with all the stuff on me in the morning, or I could leave it here and come back within minutes to grab it and get it back. Hear the footsteps outside, but nobody was growling or beating on anything, so it made me feel a little better. as I was sorting through my items to see what I could leave behind, what was extra, I didn't even realize I had an entirely extra stone pick. Not sure why I was carrying that around. It probably weighs about 5 pounds. It wasn't as good as the pick I was using. I was also carrying that scrap iron axe, which is good. It's better than my stone axe, but heavier and more complicated to repair. So I decided to plant myself here this time instead of hiding up on the roof, because I knew there were already zombies around and going out on the roof might have attracted them. So I hid out here, my gun ready, and stayed up, preparing for day number 9.